Rolling into this matchup feels like stepping into a storm where everyone ja chega sabendo que all go grande via connoisseur. Because anytime the Philadelphia Eagles get ready to face the Dallas Cowboys, the energy in the air changes. Now imagine this rivalry heating up with the Eagles stepping onto the field in those Kelly green uniforms for an away game, something that has not happened in ages. It is the kind of detail that sends fans into a frenzy before the first snap, because that color is more than a uniform. It is an identity, a reminder of eras past, and wearing it on enemy territory makes the whole storyline even louder. This game does not need help to feel huge, but moments like this add gasoline to a fire that is already raging. And while all the nostalgia and all the energy build up outside the lines, inside the lines the conversation gets even more intriguing. Dallas enters with an offense that has been lighting up scoreboards all season, pushing the pace, stretching the field, and putting enormous pressure on every defense they face. They spread the ball, they attack space, and they force you into mistakes if you blink for half a second. But across from them comes the side of the ball that the Eagles have leaned on more than anything, a defense that has been playing like one of the truly elite units in the league. Week after week, this group flies around, tightens the screws, and turns chaotic plays into opportunities. If they're not the best unit in football right now, they're sitting right there on the edge, making it almost impossible for offenses to get comfortable. The problem, of course, is that the offense on the other side has not matched that level. And that is what has been driving fans insane. This is not an offense lacking talent. Far from it. It is an offense loaded with playmakers, with experience, with explosiveness, and yet the production shows a completely different reality. When you look at points per game, sitting in the middle of the league, it is frustrating enough. Then you see the yardage totals dipping lower and lower, hovering around the bottom third of the league, and you start feeling that familiar knot in the stomach. Third downs have been a nightmare. Drives stall. Rhythm disappears. One moment, it looks like everything is about to click, and the next snap feels like the team took 3 steps backwards. And this is what makes it so maddening. The red zone efficiency is incredible, among the best in football. When they get close, they finish. The problem is getting there consistently. The disconnect between talent and production is obvious, and it becomes even more clear when you break down how the rushing game has been performing. Running the ball has always been part of the Eagles' identity, and they still run it plenty, but the efficiency has evaporated. The yards per carry have dropped sharply, the explosive runs are harder to find, and too often the running back takes the handoff only to meet defenders in the backfield before the play even gets started. That is not a running back issue. That is a blocking issue. Holes that existed last season simply are not there. Space that opened naturally before now collapses immediately. Injuries have played a role, because the offensive line has barely had time to stabilize. Rarely has the full starting group been on the field together for even a handful of snaps. Just when it seems like continuity is forming, someone goes down again. And as the line shuffles, protection shifts, timing shifts, chemistry shifts, and all of that bleeds into the quarterback's performance too. Yet, even with all that happening, the quarterback has been quietly putting together a solid season statistically. The numbers show an efficient passer, strong decision-making, strong performance under pressure, and impressive production against both man and zone coverage. He has had bad games, sure, but overall, his metrics do not match the idea that he is the core of the problem. So, if the quarterback is not regressing and the running back has not slowed down, then the eyes naturally turn to the structure of the offense. Play calling has lacked rhythm. Drives feel choppy. The sequencing does not build momentum. And the route concepts are often too predictable or too limited, especially for receivers with elite ability. When separation numbers fall near the bottom of the league, that is not just about personnel, that is about design. Star receivers are being asked to win straight up without being moved around, without being put into mismatches, without being brought inside to attack the middle of the field where they have dominated in the past. Instead of a creative layout of routes layered across the field, there are times where the receivers are bunched up too close in alignment, allowing defenders to sit on patterns without much effort. Looking back at earlier games only reinforces the problem. When this team is at its best, receivers are crossing the field in motion, cutting underneath, running layered concepts that force defenders to chase rather than react. The star wideouts thrive when they are allowed to move freely, to attack all areas of the field, and to force defenders into uncomfortable leverage. Instead, too often this year, their route charts look stiff, predictable, and repetitive, with entire sections of the field barely being touched. This takes away a third of the offense before the play even begins. And when your biggest threats are not being used creatively, defenses can key in, tighten coverage, and disrupt timing before the ball even leaves the quarterback's hand. This stands in stark contrast to last season, when the same receivers were running dynamic, diverse patterns that opened up huge gains. Back then, you saw slants, posts, crossers, whip routes, deep outs, go balls, slot fades, and combinations that forced defenders to cover every inch of space. Now, too often, you see simple go routes or quick outs without much variation. That lack of variety shrinks the field and makes the offense easier to contain, especially against top defenses that thrive on anticipation. And when you add in the decline in run efficiency, the shrinking of the route tree, and the inconsistency in protection, suddenly the entire offense feels jammed up. Drives stall not because of one person, but because every part of the machine is slightly out of sync. The quarterback hesitates for half a second because a route is slow to develop. The running back has no lane because a block is late. The coordinator calls a play expecting man coverage, but gets zone and does not have built-in answers. It becomes a cycle, and cycles are hard to break without a clear reset. As this matchup against Dallas approaches, all of these issues swirl together because the offense cannot afford to come in lukewarm while the defense carries everything again. The defense can only do so much. At some point, the offense needs to rediscover that identity that made it one of the hardest units to defend in past seasons. The pieces are still there. The talent is still there. The spark just needs to be lit again. Picking up right where the tension builds, the deeper you look into this offense, the clearer it becomes that the problem is not just execution, but the framework itself. The rhythm is off, the identity is blurred, and the creativity that once made this unit dangerous has dulled over time. And nothing illustrates that better than what has been happening with the star receivers. Players who should be dictating matchups every single week, but instead find themselves locked into predictable alignments and limited variations. When a player with that much physical talent and route running precision is being restricted to the outside snap after snap, it strips away one of the greatest advantages he brings. Defenses love predictability, and right now the offense is giving them exactly what they want. Without movement across formations, without working the middle of the field, without putting defenders in conflict, it becomes far too easy for opponents to slide coverage, disguise leverage, and suffocate spacing. And when spacing dies, timing dies along with it. The most frustrating part is knowing that these receivers have excelled in years past when they were given creative freedom. You could see it in those games where they lined up in the slot, shifted across the formation, ran layered concepts, and forced defenders to chase routes that cut across multiple zones. Those are the nights when the offense felt unstoppable, when every play built off the previous one, when a quarterback could rip the ball with confidence because he knew the design gave him answers. This season, those answers are harder to find. Too many snaps start static. Too many routes end in the same spots. Too many plays rely on someone winning a contested ball rather than the scheme manufacturing an advantage. And while the receivers are capable of winning those battles, relying on contested catches as your offensive engine is a quick way to become stagnant. It becomes even clearer when you compare the way the passing attack looked last year to now. Last season, the offense was fearless in attacking the deep middle of the field, one of the toughest areas for defenses to cover consistently. That is where the timing, chemistry, and physicality of these receivers separated them from the pack. But when that part of the field disappears from the playbook, everything compresses horizontally. Safeties stop respecting the seam. Linebackers creep up. Outside corners can sit on short routes. The entire structure collapses inward, squeezing the quarterback's window until it becomes razor thin. The result is exactly what you see on film: hesitation, forced throws, stalled drives, and frustration on faces all over the sideline. And then you add the running game, which has been stuck in the mud for weeks. When the offensive line cannot generate that initial push, the running back never gets a chance to showcase the strengths that make him special. He is explosive, powerful, elusive, and capable of breaking off huge gains. But no runner can thrive when contact arrives the moment the ball is handed off. Last season, there was room to accelerate, space to cut, lanes opening on the second level. This year, the yards before contact tell the entire story. A dramatic drop, almost a full yard lost, which completely changes how a run develops. Instead of a momentum-building staple of the offense, the run game becomes a desperate attempt to squeeze out 3 yards and avoid a negative play. And when your run game loses its punch, your play-action sequence collapses too, removing yet another layer that once helped receivers find space downfield. On top of that, the constant rotation on the offensive line has been brutal. Football is a sport built on cohesion, especially in the trenches. Line play thrives on chemistry, communication, and repetition. But this season, it feels like every time the group starts to settle, an injury pulls a piece out again. The right side shifts, the interior adjusts, the protections change, and suddenly all the timing that was beginning to take shape falls apart again. Players who should be anchoring their positions are instead shuffling into emergency roles. And that kind of instability always shows up on game day. Defensive fronts exploit it, blitz packages hit weak spots, stunts create confusion, and you get breakdowns that were not happening in past years. Even with all of that working against them, the quarterback has continued producing at a high level statistically, which only highlights how disjointed the structure of the offense has become. He has improved in areas where critics once targeted him, especially under pressure and against different coverages. He is delivering accurate balls, extending plays when needed, and making smart decisions more often than not. But even the most polished quarterback cannot overcome a system that fails to help him. And that is where the frustration spills over. Because when a quarterback is forced to be perfect on every snap, the margin of error disappears. The truth is that play calling has lacked that pulse that keeps defenses guessing. Successful offenses have rhythm. They stack plays, they build sequences that manipulate defenders into thinking one thing is coming before hitting them with something entirely different. But right now, too many drives feel like isolated plays rather than part of flowing structure. First downs do not set up second downs. Motions do not create leverage. Formations do not threaten multiple areas of the field. It becomes predictable, and predictability is a death sentence in the modern league. Opponents do not even need to disguise their intentions because the offense is not forcing them into conflict. And the wide receivers, with all their talent, feel it too. Body language says as much. You can see the frustration when spacing collapses and defenders are draped all over them because the design never gave them a chance to separate. You can see it when they run vertical over and over without the complementary routes that pull defenders away. The offense simply cannot keep asking elite players to win with one hand tied behind their back. They need motion, misdirection, stacked alignments, deeper route combinations, routes that attack soft spots in the middle, and concepts that make defenders choose between two bad options. That is what the best defensive minds do. That is what has been missing. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In what could be the shocker of the NFL offseason, whispers are swirling through league circles that Odell Beckham Jr., the electrifying wide receiver known for his jaw-dropping catches and headline-grabbing personality, may be on his way to the Philadelphia Eagles. Fans across the country are struggling to process the possibility, with social media timelines flooding with disbelief, speculation, and wild predictions about how this move could reshape the league. Beckham, who has dazzled in multiple franchises with his game-changing speed and uncanny ability to make defenders look foolish, has often been the subject of trade rumors, but none seem to carry the weight or audacity of this one. Eagles supporters, already spoiled with a dynamic offense, are reportedly buzzing in private fan circles, debating whether OBJ could bring the team to a new stratosphere of offensive firepower. Analysts are weighing in too, some pointing to his injury history and perceived inconsistency, while others highlight his unmatched talent and potential to become a true focal point in Philadelphia's attacking scheme. The rumor mill suggests that talks have been quietly progressing behind closed doors, with sources hinting that front office executives are seriously exploring how Beckham might fit into the Eagles' plans. If true, this would mark one of the most sensational acquisitions in recent memory, reigniting discussions about star power versus team chemistry and sparking debates about whether Philadelphia could suddenly become the league's most formidable threat on paper alone. Meanwhile, Beckham's camp remains tight-lipped, fueling even more speculation. Would this be a reunion of sorts with familiar faces, or a bold new chapter in his already storied career? Social media reactions capture the collective astonishment. Some fans are ecstatic at the thought of OBJ catching passes from a top-tier quarterback, while others are cautiously skeptical, wary of the distractions and drama that have occasionally followed him. Regardless of what actually happens, one thing is clear: the NFL world is abuzz. Rumors of Beckham in Philadelphia have reignited conversations in sports bars, online forums, and locker rooms alike. Analysts, insiders, and casual fans alike are holding their breath, knowing that if this rumor comes to fruition, the impact would be felt far beyond the confines of Lincoln Financial Field. The league could be on the brink of a seismic shift, and all eyes are on the Eagles. Can they pull off one of the most audacious moves in recent memory by securing one of the game's most electrifying talents? That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.